इस वक्त बराह रास्त आपको ले चलते हैं वफाकी वजीर शहरी रहमान मीडिया से मुखातिब।
And here you see one of our women getting title to leases, to land, which is one of our big empowerment programs, and Sindh, the province, has launched it. As we rebuild from the last flood, the titles are being given to the women householders. They actually cultivate the land also. Pakistan's road to 2030 is obviously first our priority is adaptation, because we are already on a mitigation path, as I have just explained. We have investment needs that go into $152 billion US, and climate adaptive development, shock-proofing the country requires 4 times the amount of money that normal development requires. Our mitigation goals are actually preceded our adaptation ones. We are late to the adaptation party, but we need to catch up here. Here, Excellency, if you have any questions, we can unpack this for you.
60% by 2030.
Yes, that's too ambitious, but that's a goal we have set. In that 2030, Excellency, 15% is unconditional and 35% is conditional on funding. That was the NDC that we had set, and that is our path to net zero. You can see that decarbonization has been resourced at 196 billion. Carbon markets are obviously already functioning. We are handing down a transitional interim framework also for other markets to come in. Vera has just come in as part of our registry now, one of the big registries. Electric vehicles, we need to make the shift by 2030. Again, we are looking for investors and funding for that. The energy transition is 60% by 2030, 102 USD billion. That's a lot of money, and that is why I keep saying the gap between resources and goals is very high now. So while countries have made stated ambitions, they have no way to actually practically implement them. Your focus on practicality is music to our ears. So moving from that, leave no one behind. I think that's our common ground. Expectations from COP28. As I said, we are looking for the same global reset that you spoke about in terms of the financial architecture and the MDBs being capitalized to meet the needs that they talk about. We are not getting the funds needed for adaptation or mitigation. The current framework isn't working. Urgent action to operationalize the loss and damage fund. We've spoken about it, to make it additional, predictable, and even to have more agility in accessing the funds. Institutionalizing the private sector, again something that we have been keen to promote, and with your particular position in the entire global game on operationalizing both the public and private sector, we feel that you can take us into another level of opportunities, the entire COP situation platform, which means there should be grant-based climate financing for developing countries. Don't drown us in more debt, is what we're saying. Prioritize favorable outcomes for the global south. Yes, new collective quantified finance goals, everybody will be speaking to you about. You know that already, and we will support that. Barriers to accessing private equity investment need to be removed, which means that when we are asked for, when an investor comes in, we are told to projectize everything. That has become a barrier, especially when you are already a very indebted country. The commodity markets don't respond, so raising bonds or debt swaps are very difficult. Then you have, lastly, doubling of adaptation finance. This is a stated goal we all had together. Then we have the comprehensive assessment and accountability mechanisms for the global stocktake, which you have already announced. Ensuring access to a just energy transition work program. I'm speaking of a JETP package for Pakistan. I know that interests you, and I think we should be willing to work with the ADB and the Power Ministry on this together. There is some interest in the ADB to kickstart that. And operationalize the risk index of all parties at the UN system. It's not a new ask, but we need to push for this. There's still no vulnerability index at the UN system. There needs to be. And finally, building and financing early warning systems for countries in the arc of extreme vulnerability. This is something the Secretary General was championing last year, if you recall. So we need that to move forward and not just be a slogan, yeah? Lastly, these are our existing collaborations. I've mentioned the MOU with you that was in climate and the environment space, including energy transition, which we are working on. The rest is in front of you. We want to increase our share of alternative and renewable energies. That is the only way to move forward and reduce our own emissions and reduce our import bill. It's so important. So here we are. It's all in front of you. Any questions? Very happy to share them. Thank you very much. And lastly, I'm showing you, we want to give you this 75 rupee note, which is now legal tender and says commits to saving climate and species. For the first time, Pakistan is giving away money. Thank you very much, Excellency.
वफाकी वजीर शेरी रहमान इस वक्त COP28 के सदर के हमरा गुफ्तगू कर रही थी।
अवाम के लिए एक और मुश्किल, आटे की अदम दस्तयाबी पर अवाम परेशान। शदीद गर्मी में यूटिलिटी स्टोर्स के बाहर लंबी लंबी कतारें। बोल ने निभाई सहाफती जिम्मेदारियां, पहुंचाई घर घर ये आवाज।
इस्लामाबाद के यूटिलिटी स्टोर से सस्ते आटे का हुसूल शहरियों के लिए ख्वाब बन गया। बोल न्यूज हकायक सामने ले आया है।
आओ मिलकर आवाज उठाएं, पाकिस्तान को बदलें बोल के साथ। बोल बना अवाम की आवाज। अवामी शिकायत पर बोल ने किया मुताल्लिका इदारों से मुतालबा।
सुबह 6 बजे से आकर ये लोग आटे का इंतजार करते हैं।
7 बजे आई और नहीं मिल रहा है आटा, पैसे नहीं होते थे उधारे लेकर आती हूँ।
वो कहते हैं जी 7 खजूर लाजमी लें, हमारे पास आटे के पैसे नहीं होते तो खजूर कहाँ से लें?
क्योंकि बोल है पाकिस्तान का नंबर 1 न्यूज चैनल।
सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल दबाएं ताकि कोई खबर रह न जाए।